sleep. And I could not believe the revolution that's happening, and really a lot of it's from the sports and fitness world. A lot of it's from our metabolic kind of world as well. So I want to do a couple main things, and all this is hopefully going to make you better people, better with brain, body, but also metabolism and endurance. And one of the things that you may be able to change, VO2 max can be diminished by sleep deprivation. So it's not like we're going to make you better. When we do VO max testing, some of the things that we can do is show what's the limitations. And what you can do with training and other things, you can see your VO2 max and see changes or augmentation, but you can really notice what happens. So what we get to see, we've always known this for the last 10 years, you can, VO2 max may increase as much as 10 or 15% if you go from sleep deprived to enough sleep. So that's the whole goal. We knew that for years. Now there's a lot of other stuff that we know and how we know it. So I kind of want to walk you through that, kind of show you how it may kind of get into your world. And for some people, this is a big deal. Other people, they're going to tell you, gosh, no, it doesn't matter. Sleep doesn't matter. When I sleep doesn't matter. I'm the same all the time. Other people, they notice it. And it may not matter when you're 25, but it may matter when you're 45. Okay, so my main goals, sleep is important. Sleep plays a big role in body recovery and performance. That is a big thing. And now it's even going to be advantageous when you're all making your schedules for you to think about my sleep schedule. Sleep is a part of your training. And the only time that your body recovers, or maximal time that you recover, is in good deep sleep. You do a whole bunch of good things. A lot of athletes are sleep deprived because you're working, you're going to school, you're doing 5 things. Hey, I got to work out 12 hours today. No time for this. So we sacrifice our sleep to do that. But there's a drawback to that. You may be actually undermining your performance. And then the other thing is a lot of championships, a lot of games are won with no sleep the night before. However, chronic sleep deprivation is the big deal here. One night before may affect some performance, but it's that chronic sleep debt that we are worried about. Okay, and athletes, just what Barry was saying, may need more sleep than non-athletes. You are doing a lot more demands onto your body. You need to rejuvenate, regenerate, restore. You need more time to do that. The other thing, improving sleep improves athletic performance, VO2 max, recovery. Even, we have data. Our data here for athletes, I can't tell you, ligaments, recovery, but I can tell you our medical data shows faster recover after surgery as well as less infection. So to me, we do a lot of that wound healing and immunologic stuff during our good deep sleep. Okay, and then this is the other big thing with Dr. Samuels is really big on the travel effects of athletic sleep. And with you all traveling to different places, you want to talk about your travel schedule. How many days ahead do I have to be there? Gosh, I'm going to Hawaii. That's how many time zones? How to get my circadian rhythm there? How do I stay at my peak performance? And a part of that is treating the sleep deprivation. A part of it is getting your nights and days to be nights and days wherever you're going. So that's circadian rhythm alignment. And then we got to remember that some athletes may have a primary sleep disorder, and this is really not to be in the Korean and Japanese literature. This is not to be underestimated, and they actually have a higher risk of sleep apnea than non-Asian athletes because of the facial construction and sinuses and chin. They have a lot more collapse. So they actually had more, but there are a whole bunch of other sleep disorders, periodic limb movement, and those really impacted their performance. So they got to a place, and what Dr. Samuels from the Olympic kind of side from Canada is doing is how can we develop a questionnaire that we can give to athletes that are incredible performance that really kind of draw out what we need to know. Currently we have a whole bunch of ways to know this about regular humans. I'm sleepy, tired, fall asleep at work, fall asleep driving. Well, if they got diabetes, hypertension, cholesterol, all these things, well, that person has sleep apnea. Come see me, let's get you treated. But in athletes, we don't have that. So that's currently being worked on. And some of your data, with your permission, it's going to be blinded, but some of that's going to go to Dr. Samuels. We're compiling it to kind of see what pans out with it, what's important, what isn't. Okay, here's a big deal for me, that sleep is a foundation of body recovery. One of the big kind of 4 things that we know scientifically kind of helps body recovery. Sleep is one of those, but how often do we hear that? Hardly ever. We're all about nutrition, hydration, and ice, but how often do we hear about the sleep? It's kind of our afterthought sometimes. Okay, athletes need more sleep. Okay, sleep deprivation precludes optimal body performance, and we know this, a lot of brain performance. So if you're our quarterback, you know, I want my lineman well rested and strong, but my quarterback, he needs to be sharp as can be so he can think on his feet and kind of do the right things. And what Barry say, napping is absolutely critical, especially in the collegiate athletes. They build a sleep schedule where they are going to get asleep, not just in bed, asleep at least 50 hours a week. And with it, they have to figure out to do that. If you're a swimmer and you're getting up at 4:30 in the morning, or you're a skater and you're hitting the ice at 4 o'clock where you're going to skate and then come back, you're going to have to nap, you're going to have to go to school, you're going to take a nap, you're going to go and train. So all that gets built in the schedule, but the goal is to meet the minimum of 50 hours a week, which, you know, especially, I mean, I bet you're probably not getting 30, I would imagine.
I've never added it up.
Yeah, well, this is the time to do it, and some of the things that I like are even a Fitbit, or there's some ways to know. And yeah, well, there's a lot of things for wound healing, metabolism, and it may have a lot to do with things, but it may not. You know, so in you it may be powerful, but I think tracking that is the first thing to kind of realize it is important. How much am I really getting? Let me put some numbers and power to that. The Fitbit has something that you can kind of go by, but it's kind of, or a couple devices, but you have to remember these things sense movement. They really don't sense sleep. So they sense your bed partner's movement, or if you move in your sleep, it says you're awake, or if you lay there still for 3 hours, it tells you you're asleep for 3 hours. So it's a tool to be used and kind of looked at, and we can be helpful with that. Okay, one of the big things we're kind of saying about the travel schedule again, and then this aligning the circadian rhythm is very, very powerful. In some of the world-class run, the sprinters, this appears to be a big deal in the last Olympics, kind of going, accommodating to their circadian rhythm to that part of the world and kind of getting things aligned. And then I'm going to show you later with the Da Vinci Man model that there may be times during the day where most of us are faster. And if you're a world-class runner and 0.5 seconds is the difference between last and first, I'm going to do everything I can to time my circadian rhythm. So there's a place in there where our VO2 max is actually maximal as well. So I'm going to walk you through that. Okay, this post-event sleep and recovery is probably going to be as critical as the pre-event sleep for recovery. And what are you going to do next? Are you going to never be an athlete again, or are you starting to train for the next kind of race? Is that a week? Is that a day? How do you recover? Is sleep a part of that? The answer is going to be probably. Okay.
What's the definition of sleep deprivation?
Sleep deprivation.
Is it different for each person?
It is, and that's one of the things that's our goal to figure out. Is we're going to say, if I went on vacation and if I could sleep as much time as I thought to make me feel good and nothing's going to bother me. Now, when you first go on vacation, you're completely sleep deprived because you've been running frantic for months or years, whatever it is. So the first 5 days doesn't count because you're paying back a sleep debt. If you could be on vacation for 2 weeks, that second week, if you could go to sleep and wake up, you would say, gosh, you know, I thought I needed 8 hours sleep. I don't. I do great on 7 if I can get it. The problem is during the week I'm only sleeping 5. On the weekend I sleep 8 to make up for it. I'm so tired. But if I could sleep 7 every night, it's wonderful. So if you're sleeping, if you need 7 and you're sleeping less, then you're sleep deprived. And sleep deprivation is very, very powerful, very prominent. It's probably the most prominent sleep disorder we have in the U.S. as a culture. It's responsible for ADHD in kids, childhood obesity, adult obesity, diabetes. It drives a whole bunch of bad things in us. So it's very powerful, but it's underestimated. So in you all, you can use sleep to really kind of help boost your body, build your body, at least understand the importance. Okay, these are a couple, and I have studies for all of these, and we can reference them, but I'm just going to fly through them. We know these things about sleep. So we have decreased mental acuity and memory. We have increased response time, reaction time. We have psychometric testing we do. And what's amazing, the thing I want you to remember about this part, is we make people stay up for a long period of time. And they're doing this psychomotor testing, and we test them once an hour. And they get their second wind after a while. And they know, I'm not tired anymore, I'm doing great. But their psychometric testing keeps declining and getting worse and worse and worse. But our brain said, oh man, I am so tired of giving you that warning signal on fatigue. I'm going to save that energy and I'm going to stop. So I said, gosh, I'm feeling great, I'm going, but you know, everything keeps tapering off. So that's kind of one of the beware things, but it's that response time that we think I'm fine, but we're not, we're getting worse all the time. And that matters for hand-eye coordination, may matter for, you know, I don't know about biking, if that does something with reaction time in there, but I would imagine so. Okay, this coordination and dexterity is measurable with sleep deprivation, goes way down, and you notice it. I can't keep a pencil in my hand, I'm dry, you know, I can't do this, can't do this. Okay, the maximal, the VO2 max, this is kind of old data, so you know, in our adult literature, we could show that there are ways for this to go up and down, and there's ways with training, and a lot of this is genetic. When you're Norwegian, your genes are built for you to cross-country ski forever. So most of us don't have a VO2 max like that. But there are some things you can do to kind of get to that threshold, stay at that threshold, but sleep deprivation actually brings that threshold down. So if we told you, I can increase your VO2 max by 15% for your race, how much would you pay me? And the answer is, wow, a lot, you know, whatever, you know. So sleep can do that. So getting rid of chronic sleep deprivation can maximize your VO2 max. It's not like we're giving you a gift. We're allowing it to be the fullest that it can be. Okay. The maximal strength is really interesting with weightlifters, and then the maximal speed for some of the elite runners. Okay, and this is one of the things, I kind of took this from Dr. Samuels, Barry, you may agree or disagree, but he was really harping on that most athletes are overtrained and under-recovered chronically.
Totally.
You know, just always training, got to train more, got to get better, got to do this, got to do this, but they don't take time for the recovery, and sleep, thank you, is part of that recovery. So he was just adamant about this, saying it's just ridiculous. He said, we're not taking care of the first things first. Let's build a schedule that we can build, you can build your body, but you've got to keep recovering.
So, there was a post on Facebook not too many days ago. I won't tell you where it was or who did it, but one person said, I had a horrible night's sleep. I only got 2 or 3 hours sleep, but I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning and I got my workout done. Another person, separate post, said, you know, I've been feeling kind of run down. I decided to sleep in and I didn't work out today. Which of those two posts do you think got the most likes?
Second.
The one who worked out.
The getting up and
The
going.
one that
Yeah.
got up and worked out got the most likes by like 100 to 1. You know, you're a badass because you got up and worked out.
Right. On 2 hours of sleep.
Well, and that's what we're going to show you, that, I mean, there's being kind of macho, and then there's really taking care of this body that you're trying to build up and get to a maximal performance. So the sleep is important. And I'm going to show you one of the other caveats from Samuels is never train on a fatigued body.
Because always the things that would balance is, do I train tired? I'm tired, do I go out and
Yeah.
do...
He would say no, and he would also tell you don't train outside of your circadian rhythm of day and night. He said if you're training and you think you're supposed to be asleep, let's say I'm getting up, my normal circadian rhythm, I'm supposed to wake up at 7 a.m., I go to bed at 11, but if I get up and go exercise from 5:30 to 6, I'm not doing any good, because I'm exercising at a time when my biologic clock says I'm supposed to be asleep. The same is true with eating. If you eat at night or eat in that time frame, you gain as much as 2 pounds a week if you would eat that same calories during when your biologic clock says it's day. So this biologic clock is very powerful, very strong. So diet matters, and then there's no data to say this, but that's what he says to all these athletes. And so I mean, I kind of, when he said it, I kind of perked up. Okay. Okay, now these are the proven things, and I'm sorry, I don't know the compression data yet to know if it goes on this list yet. But the 4 pillars that do prove benefit to recovery are hydration, nutrition, cold water immersion, ice, and sleep. So I want to put sleep on, you know, it's on that list officially, data, science, but I want you to keep it on that list with everything else. Okay, now this is kind of the other stuff. Athletes need adequate quality and quantity of sleep to fully recover and optimize athletic performance. This is Dr. Samuels. Never train hard on a fatigued body. He would say you go do yoga, or you go do stretching or something else, but never train hard on a fatigued body. And the question is, what's a fatigued body? I don't know what that is, but I think you have to figure that out for yourself. Or if you're a coach, you kind of going to have to give some guidance to that person. Are they injury prone, and that's where we're going to get more of our injuries? Are they, you know, how can we push this? Okay, minimum of 50 hours a week for sleep. Okay, napping is absolutely critical. Fitting it in.
Does that go to the sleep time? Now
It
you
does.
say 50 hours.
It does.
Could it be 40
Fragmented.
and 5 naps?
It is. It's however you can get it is better than being under 50. It's ideal if it could all be in blocks of 7.5 hours a night. The world's a great place. Don't need a nap. Probably not going to happen. But if you could at least get the total of 50, you're better than being under 50, and that's an average. And these numbers are more. Now you may say, "Gosh, those are from collegiate athletes. So they really apply to me." Our answer is probably. So I would stick with that. Okay. And then if you're tired, fatigued, draggy, drained on 7 hours of sleep a night, the questions are: do you need more? Historically, when you were a kid, did you sleep 10 or 12 hours to feel good? If so, your brain needs more sleep. Get more sleep. Maybe we can't. If the answer is no, I only needed 7 hours of sleep, I'm getting it, but now I'm tired, draggy. Sure, I'm working out, I'm exhausted, but there may be a real sleep disorder that you may need to have evaluated. And things that we do, or when I give you our critiques, I may say in there, gosh, I'm concerned about something. I want you to take this to your primary care doctor and talk with them about X or Y or Z. And that's a primary sleep disorder. Okay, so here's other things. Okay, this is some of the other stuff we talked about, and there's data on everything except for the top two are his gestalts and what he tells the Olympic kind of athletes and even the other people he coaches, not in the Olympics. But never train hard on an unrested or fatigued body. No energy drinks. And this is something that I'm not sure I understand everything about it, but he's talking more about Monster energy drinks, and they're not what you guys are used to. I think they're more the other Red Bull and the other stuff kind of on the street. Now the things that we can tell you, there is science behind caffeine, but we all have a tendency to overdo caffeine. Once you have some, if we overdo it, you upregulate your receptors, so now it really doesn't work when you get just some. You need more and more and more, and pretty soon your receptors are so highly regulated that you need caffeine in order not to feel bad. But we know that caffeine can actually do things to help you kind of with acuity, help you feel better, help fight fatigue, actually help dexterity, help mental acuity, acutely stay on the road driving. But it's 200 milligrams, which is a cup of coffee, not much. I think in one of those Monster drinks it was 1,200 milligrams of caffeine. Right. So, yeah. So it is.
A cup of coffee is a lot less than
two. I think it's 200.
Really?
Yeah, 200 is, but that's a regular, that was of a cup of coffee.
Yeah, 6 ounces.
Yeah,
right.
Years ago, not a grande or something. But anyway, the caffeine is really great because what they tell you to do, if you're going to go have a nap, you need to nap. You're tired, beat, exhausted, you need to restore, recover, but you're going to take a half-hour nap, that's what you have time for. You're going to have a cup of coffee or a 200 milligram caffeine tablet, and you're going to go to sleep. And what happens a half hour later, everything gets absorbed, it's finally in your system, and you get up and you're ready to go. You've had a nap, but the caffeine actually helps them. It helps their school performance, helps their physical performance. It doesn't really mean much in recovery, but it's actually kind of helped them enable a structure that they can get the nap, the extra time, and then be ready to take on the, get their sleep momentum behind them and get awake and get going. Now, doing that 3 times a day is not going to work. Doing it once a day is what the literature is what the literature would say we should do. Okay, the sleep banking technology is sleep is a commodity. I need 50 hours a week. If I'm going places, doing things, I know I'm not going to get much sleep there. It's going to be a heck of a travel trip, 2 days of no sleep. I'm going to get a lot of sleep before I go. And oversleep, and some of us, we can't oversleep. You can lay there, but rest can be helpful. But actually, if you can sleep before, you can perform better with sleep deprivation for 3 or 4 or 5 days. And this is the whole thing. The military does this. When you get on a transport, you're given Ambien, you sleep until the wheels hit, and then you're up for 24, 36, 48 hours. And that's sleep banking. And athletes do that as well. Chronically, bad idea. Acutely, for one event, and a limited period of time, it's better than not banking sleep. then you're sleep deprived when you get there, you're completely wiped out. Your performance is worse with the 36 hours of no sleep or limited sleep. Okay, design a travel schedule. I've got a reference that I can give you on this for travel, maybe useful for when you all are traveling and kind of doing things just to kind of know. And then this is what he was saying, this is what I was alluding to. Do not train at the wrong time of your circadian rhythm. Actually, there's some, it's not published yet, but some stuff coming out through the Japanese and Korean literature. Looks like when they get these kids up to start cycling, start running, start everything before their circadian rhythm day, it's really not helping them. It's not helping their training, it's not helping them progress. When they have them train, and they saw this because of all the training times, there's a limited number of fields and different things, and they track everything. But what they noticed, and the best, the least injured, I mean, it was amazing. The football players did best because they always got to play football in the afternoon and the evening. So they got to sleep in, they got recovered, they got fed, they slept enough. All these things, and I think, well, they're just football players, can't be that much. But then they looked at all these other subcategories, and it really had to do with the time of the day, that they didn't have to get up for training or do anything. They got up for classes, 8 or 9 o'clock, but they weren't up at 6, they weren't up at 5, they weren't up at 4. So they really kind of stayed true to their circadian rhythm. And the younger adults have a different circadian rhythm than us older adults. They stay up later, they go to bed later. That's a delayed sleep phase, that's normal and natural. When we age, we get advanced sleep phase. We go to bed earlier, we get up earlier. So there's a transition there. So you have to know where you get enough sleep and then be in your circadian rhythm.
Can you change your circadian rhythm?
You can change your circadian rhythm. We have ways to do that, ways to reinforce a circadian rhythm, and we do that. We should be doing that for all of our shift workers, but we don't. We don't give them those clues. And shift work syndrome, which is when we're working at times we should be asleep, is now a risk factor for cancer, diabetes, cholesterol, heart attacks.
Wow.
I mean, it's breast cancer. I mean, it's really powerful. And you know, now we're beginning to notice it. So now we're trying to come up with strategies to align the circadian rhythm. So getting enough sleep is number one, but then taking melatonin is something our brain is supposed to do. Most of our brains don't do it. Physiologically, we do it when the sun goes down. The melatonin is secreted by the pineal gland, which is located right by the optic chiasm of the eyes. There's no light. It says it must be dark. Let's secrete melatonin. Melatonin washes over the brain. It's not very powerful, but it engages the song of sleep in our brain. We go to sleep. Then when we get up, bright light. It really engages and condenses that circadian rhythm and will push it. So if you want to move your circadian rhythm earlier, you take melatonin, you know, at whatever time that you, half hour before you go to bed. Then when you get up in the morning, you want to see bright light. Now if you're going to the pool, if you're kind of doing things, if you're running in the dark, that's not enough light. So we have light therapy, light lamps, kind of resources for that. So there's a lot to do to move that. And for our nighttime work, we move it forward, we move it backwards. We work on moving it when we're traveling to Hawaii and you want to be on that time zone or you know, different things.
This is a specific to me, I hope you guys don't mind. I take melatonin on my weekends because my sleep's, I change my circadian rhythm every week.
Yeah.
Monday through Friday, it's nights. Sunday and Monday, it's days. And on those switch days, I call them my switch days, when I get up Sunday morning and I go back to bed Sunday night, that's when I take melatonin. Would you suggest maybe taking that all week long, or just on those days I switch?
I think the first part of all that would be you should be on the same sleep and wake schedule 7 days a week.
Well, that's not possible.
But your lifestyle to work nights, though,
right,
trumps that. So you cannot engage a normal circadian rhythm no matter what you do. Taking the melatonin may actually trick your brain to make it worse. So there's really nothing short of a structured schedule to let your brain do that. And then if that doesn't work, melatonin and light therapy will help you more. But right now, that switching 5 days here, 2 days, like our firefighters.
Right, 5
like
days.
When that schedule changes, they cannot keep up with that change. So their circadian rhythm is not findable and capturable. You know, and they essentially lose. And we know that a lot of things happen, no matter what, it's not your fault, but it's just no one has told you, hey, you need the same schedule. We should say that to all people who work nights to do this, to do it effectively and more healthy and help your body and brain, mood, you know, all these things. You gotta have the same schedule whether you're working or not. So the melatonin maybe, I don't know, if you think it's helping, great.
But I feel like it helps me sleep during the night.
It may help sleep efficiency, but it won't be helping that circadian rhythm.
Right, no, I'm not trying to.
Okay. Good. You're a whole class on your own.
Sure.
Okay. Okay, here we go. So exercise and physical exertion affects, okay, this is the other way. We used to think, oh, don't exercise before you go to sleep, you'll be awake all night. That's not true. Now one of our treatments for insomnia in some people is actually, once you go exercise for an hour, and then come back, you're tired, wore out, exhausted. Some people it does keep them up, but most people it doesn't. So if you get like an hour in between, you're good. But we know that exercise actually helps a lot of things in our sleep. We get more deep sleep, and it increases our sleep efficiency. Then this is just a deep sleep. It shortens our sleep onset time. Okay, now this is the thing that's really, I didn't know about this, but I want your insight, but this is something new. Athletes and their bodies, you're kind of sensitive to a lot. You have a lot going on, probably a lot more aches and pains than us non-exercising people. But you're probably more sensitive to your body, and that's just kind of a thing that you're going through and your body's reacting. But you probably also sense that in a way that you're going to have more insomnia. You're going to have more awakenings from whether it's got to roll over to something sore to spontaneously, you've been in hyperdrive all day. So your brain's in the normal, we have these cycles up and down. When we wake up, we're tired, groggy, and said, I've been a slug all day, so I'm going to be a slug now. I'm going to roll over, go to sleep. If you've been running all over, you're going to be up and saying, what am I doing now? Am I getting on the bike? Am I swimming? Am I doing? So your brain gravitates to what next, what next? So that mode kind of, so insomnia may actually be something more common in athletes, and you're more sensitive, but may make a bigger deal. So that's something new that we really don't have any data on.
In Training Peaks on your, if you have an individual account in Training Peaks, you can track your sleep, and you can rate it 1 to 10, I believe, is the sleep ratings, with 1 being pretty lousy and 10 being really good. And it may be something as you get set up on Training Peaks, you may want to track that. It may, and maybe information we want to give back to Dr. Carmen.
Yeah.
As you're progressing through, for those of you doing Ironman next year, as you're progressing through the Ironman, be interesting to know.
And I think that's what Samuels is trying to work on as well, is a more kind of validated system to assess that for effectively, whether it's 1 through 10 or a number of 8 questions you answer on your iPhone app every morning when you get up, or once or twice a day. So that's a part of what he's trying to get a lot of elite athlete information about. Okay, and then the other thing is you have such high expectations of your body that you may be, when you get up, you say, oh my God, I can't afford this, I need to sleep, I'm training, I can't afford to be up 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So that gets really frustrating. And when you put a negative spin on it, it becomes more negative. Bad sleep begets bad sleep. So when you wake up like that, relax, let it go. Say, hey, it must have been a normal sleep cycle, roll over, go to sleep. No pressure, just gonna rest. Yeah, no pressure. Okay. Okay. Oh, this is great. Now, I was telling you, in professional sports, you won't find it. This is the first study done by Dr. May. He's done some professional athlete stuff with football, and this is the stuff with the Stanford basketball team that he did. And he actually took them. I mean, it's incredible. I don't know how we don't know more of this. This was just published probably 18 months ago, or what is it? No, more than that. We're 2.5 years away from it. But anyway, so he took the Stanford basketball team, convinced the coaches the importance of sleep, and they bought into it. And they really, really bought it. They made sure everyone was in bed. I mean, those athletes were taken care of, accounted for, and it wasn't just in bed. They actually found ways to extend their sleep time. Some of those athletes actually had some sleep disorders they had to take care of, but they got everyone on the same page, extended their sleep time, and then some remarkable things happened to a lot of the ways they assessed them at the beginning of the season to the end of the season. And the only thing they perceived they did differently was tell them that they needed this much sleep, enabled a way to get this much sleep, and enforced getting this much sleep. And forgive me, I can't remember how much the sleep time they changed, but I think it was like either 48 minutes or 72, or 48 or 52 minutes that they changed the total sleep time from before this program to during this program. But they essentially went from sleep deprived, like all college kids, to enough sleep. So what they did, they increased their total sleep time. They found out statistically significant faster sprint times, increased free throw percentages, increased 3-point shot percentage, improved reaction time, And they had this vigor and fatigue scale that they used that was validated, and they said it was significant. And improved, this is another kind of subjective, but improved overall physical and mental well-being. Is a great, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you can see how it really impacted something. So that was the first collegiate kind of outcomes-based kind of anything that happened, but faster sprint times, you know, more accuracy, you name it. Okay, and this is what the big Japanese study with 5,000 student athletes, early practice time correlated with poor sleep and less sleep. Insomnia is more common than we thought. Sleep apnea, oh, their screening was kind of inaccurate based on their cultural, the way that they're built, but they've made amends to this. So they're really screening, almost all their athletes get a screening test for sleep apnea. Okay, poorly understood sleep by athletes. This is a big part of it, that we underappreciated the amount of sleep we need, how important it is. So the real goal for them was training all their athletic trainers and coaches and staff, and then figuring out when they are collegiate first, then athletes. So school first, everything had to fit around that, and there wasn't enough time. So, you know, they were sacrificing sleep for athletics, essentially. Okay, and this really, they showed differences when before and after they invoked programs, and this is not yet published, and this guy was at the meeting with Samuels, and they just, I mean, the data that'll be coming out in the next year or two is going to be incredible. Okay, this is just some psychometric testing, saying when you're sleep deprived, you do bad cognitive performance, your digital control is worse. We already know the VO2 data. Okay, if I lost my circadian rhythm, or I'm doing things at the wrong time of circadian rhythm, these are things that go wrong. This is not really you and performance, but this is like medical conditions, cardiovascular, white blood cell, cognition, brain, insulin resistance, breast cancer. We now know there's a couple other cancers from sleep deprivation, circadian rhythm disorders as well. We put on a lot more fat, and we put fat on in a different way when we're sleep deprived. This was the Da Vinci Man, and if you may not really see it, but at different times of our circadian rhythm, we're actually do different things. We're smarter at some times. You want to take your test or have your highest power meeting at 10 a.m. if you're someone who went to bed at 11 and got up at 7 or 8. That kind of early or kind of mid-morning meeting is when you're sharp, have the sharpest brain acuity, at least most of us. May be powerful in some, not as powerful in others. But we also had things going on at different times. At 2:30 we had our best coordination. We had our fastest reaction time. Here at 3:30, graded cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength. So there's a lot of things kind of that we can say, gosh, I want my linemen to have their maximal strength. I want my quarterback to be sharpest acuity. Where's their circadian rhythm? Well, this is where we got back to some of those world-class runners, and they want to get somewhere, and they're going to say, gosh, you know, I'm going to have my fastest, where's fastest, or probably here for greatest cardiovascular efficiency and muscle strength. You know, I want to make sure my races are on my circadian rhythm at this time to try and align that. And for that may be strong for some, it may be none for others. So I don't think we know where we individually stand with that.
And Rob, if our athletes traveled to Tokyo, would they and they ran best at 3 p.m.
Right.
4 it'd be what 5 p.m. September 5 p.m.
Correct.
Would we try to adjust their sleep so that 5 p.m. body time would actually be 5 p.m. in Tokyo?
It depends on if you're going to go to Tokyo, if you're going to revert to their time zone 2 weeks early, or if we're going to start, or if we're going to want to get to that time zone and get there when we arrive. We're going to start changing our circadian rhythm now in anticipation of when that is. So it all depends on when. And this is one of the executives who travel either to Asia or Europe. They're going to say, I've got a 5 p.m. meeting in, whatever, let's just say, you know, Switzerland, blah, blah, blah. What do I do? And they said, well, that 5 p.m. is this time to you. You know, you want to rearrange the meeting to this time. Are you flying to the meeting that night, or are you going to be there? What do we do with your circadian rhythm? So a lot of it has to do with this, transportation there, how much time. The college teams now say that they want to be someplace, a full 2 days early if they could, and they can't by all the rules and transportation costs and stuff. So they get there right before a game, and some of them leave that night, or if they're lucky, they wait the next day, which impairs recovery, and they have shortened sleep times. So there's a lot of debate about when is it best to travel. So and a lot of it's knowing what's your circadian rhythm now, what's your best time, what's your objective, at what time, and then where are you going, what time zone. And do we start adjusting now, or do you adjust it to a time that's best for you and make them, you know, change their meeting to 6 a.m. because that's when it's best for your circadian rhythm, and that puts them at a disadvantage. So, you know, it depends on what you want. And we had one of the business guys, he said this was, he called it a weapon that he used when he goes there. He wants to negotiate with them at times, you know, kind of late after dinner for them, but they're really at a time where he's on his peak. You know, he's hoping they drink, and he's not going to, and he feels he's at his peak mental capacity, and they're not going to be. Okay, this is the other stuff, timing of games and match. One of the studies done looked at a lot of timing, East Coast playing West Coast, and really the long and the short of this came out that circadian rhythm really mattered. A lot of the East Coast guys weren't playing at their best circadian rhythm, they were late, or the West Coast guys were playing so early they couldn't do it. So those were some neat studies. Some circadian variation in soccer performance that was just kind of published. I don't understand this, but this was big evidently in the Asian literature about judo performance. Evidently the maximal exertion that they do is incredible. And there was some sleep deprivation study done with them that were supposedly powerful. Okay, and then, God, I don't understand this, but this was a guy who would serve 200 times and assess accuracy, or what was the distribution or plot distribution accuracy, and do it at different times of circadian rhythm, and do it with sleep deprivation and without sleep deprivation. And I mean, these guys are animals, but they were all about tennis and how could they, you know, get their serve down, when was it most accurate, what happens when you're fatigued.
It's about finite accuracy and strength of performance.
It is, and that was it.
Very
It was
finite.
It was, and they this came out saying that there was a difference. So they now, you know, have this algorithm of how, you know, almost like pitchers and how many throws, and but to them it's what time of the day, when can I afford to do this, do I need sleep before. Okay, so a lot of that is just kind of, I mean, there for you. There's a lot, what I want to tell you is this athletic screening questionnaire, this is some of the stuff that's on it that we're going to turn in. You filled out on the back sheet of that was the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index. It's kind of wishy-washy, but there's a scoring system that I use to give it points and kind of give you a number with that. So there's a lot of different things that have been done, but there's no real right or wrong for athletes right now. Okay. Other things that we look at is a workout schedule, sleep schedule, history, medical history, medication, how much caffeine are you living on. There's something that when we determine is what their circadian rhythm is, it's a morningness, eveningness questionnaire, which we use for shift workers, probably not for you all. Okay, so here it is. What are we supposed to do? The same sleep schedule regardless. Adequate sleep duration. Adequate sleep environment. This means, is it dark, is it cool, is there somebody in bed, are there animals, am I hearing barking, is the phone on, am I getting texts? You've got to protect that. That is part of your program. So there are some people who sleep with blinders on, earplugs in. I got to tell you, they get better sleep than if they did not. So go to whatever length you need to protect that. Some of our night shift workers from Ford, I've had a couple of these, they build a sleep chamber in the basement because they cannot live a normal life unless they get enough sleep. They're doing this for 20 years. So the kids are running, the dog's doing, the phone's ringing, so they've built a place to sleep in the basement. That saves them. They do great, but they're guarding their sleep environment. We talked about the circadian alignment, the melatonin at night to consolidate sleep. May help your sleep efficiency, light therapy in the morning. Identify and treat other medical or sleep disorders. You want to achieve these goals without medications. The biochemical warfare happens when we use stimulants or sleep medications. And they all have side effects. And actually when you use a sleep aid or a sleep medication, it may put you to sleep, but it's not good deep sleep. The only medicine that does that is deprivation, but you know, Michael Jackson, what happened to him? You know, most of us can't afford to do that or want to do that. So any sleep aid you take may make you feel sleepy as a side effect, but it's not going to give you good deep sleep. In fact, it's going to steal away delta sleep or N3 and N4 sleep, your recovery sleep that you need. But you may feel, and you know, when we watch those commercials, we feel entitled to 8 hours in the same position That's not how the body works. We have sleep cycles. We actually have a light awakening every 90 to 120 minutes to notice the environment. Is the house on fire, baby crying, do I need to reposition, roll around, go back to sleep. So those are normal that you should expect to have happening. Okay, light exercise aversion. This is now, that's not for you all, I'm sorry. You can exercise up into an hour before you go to sleep. Okay, get enough sleep, nap strategy. We talked a little bit about medicines already. Okay. Okay, when we're traveling, I've got more on this. In the sense of time, I'm just going to kind of open it up for questions or kind of see if there's anything in particular that I can kind of get for you. I think I've already gone through most of the stuff with insomnia.
You were mentioning the caffeine and the naps. What do you think? Has there been a study on the most proven time duration of a nap?
29 minutes is the
20
right answer, but that's
the most valued.
That's based on brain performance and dexterity experiments. So as far as the athletes, I don't know. I'd say, you are sleep deprived. You should get 3 hours of sleep for a nap. But in most of us, if we want a nap to boost our mental abilities, fatigue and exhaustion, 29 minutes. So if you are not sleep deprived and you're just exhausted, 29 minutes.
Right.
But you should get all you can.
I don't feel like I am sleep deprived.
Okay.
I looked at my numbers. It is 48 hours.
Really?
A week.
Okay. Well, great.
And that's with hour naps, 4 out of the 7 days.
Good for you. I am surprised.
I do guard my sleep.
Good.
It's not a sleep chamber. It is a bedroom, but
Good.
it's the dark shades.
Good.
Wife
Yeah.
and kids are at school. Exercise before, eat, sleep.
Good. I'm glad you got it worked out. Most of us aren't so smart with that.
No, and this is probably what built me up to this, because prior to doing all this stuff, it was
killing
it was out of whack. It was ups and downs, emotional, mood swings, high blood pressure, all that. Eating was out of whack.
And that 2 pounds of weight gain per week on the same calories
came up
is
fast.
incredible. Yeah. It is absolutely incredible. And one of the diet strategies is now for people to get enough sleep. By getting enough sleep, you actually can lose 2 pounds a week by just sleeping more. If you go from sleep deprived to enough. Great. Other questions or anything else, Barry?
No.
How do you suggest, or what would be a good strategy to recover from a episode of lost sleep? So you have these athletes that go and they're up for however long.
Yeah.
What's your best plan of recovery after something like that?
Yeah, probably immediate sleep. Getting
Your normal duration or longer?
As long as possible. To a spontaneous awakening. If you could say, I'm going to take 8 hours, I'm going to sleep to recover, but you wake up in 6 and you feel like getting ready to go, then you just needed 6. Change it. If you could give yourself 12 hours, on some of those collegiate athletes, the real goal for them is to stay the night wherever they play a game. Stay a night that they're going to have enough time to sleep 12 hours. To really sleep, not just be in their bed, but sleep 12 hours. Have them get up spontaneously and then get on the bus, get on the plane, and head back.
You also alluded to the differentiation of sleep and rest.
Yeah.
Say I slept, I can't sleep, but I need to rest.
Yeah. Rest
off the feet.
Rest does some things that we don't understand. It's not good deep level sleep, but there's some amazing things that happen in periods of meditation, and actually some nuns with prayer that have done some studies looking at the physiology of what it does. So rest is better than no rest.
I see myself in that position too. Is like, hey, I may not be sleepy, but I know I need to rest.
Right, but rest is a portal typically to sleep. And if you don't allow the rest, and many times we say that with people with insomnia because they're so hyped up about, I can't get this sleep, it's really making me mad. Well, of course, you're just going to get worse and worse. So we say rest, isn't quite as good, but we take the pressure off them. They kind of buy into it, and it really is. There's a lot of good things. You're off your feet, your ligaments are getting a chance, but it's better than being up and running around. Then you're not going to go to sleep.
Because if I don't get a nap before work, I at least get down and rest for that same amount of time.
Right. I think you're doing great.
Well, I was trying to differentiate. And you also said something about 2 weeks on the circadians.
circadian rhythm to get.
2 weeks to switch it
Well,
back?
it depends on where you're going. If it's to Tokyo,
Oh.
if it's 12 hours that we've got to rotate a schedule,
Mhm.
it's going to take 12 days to do that.
Huh.
And then we want you 2 days on a stable schedule before you, so you're stabilized and you can act out. Your circadian rhythm will be aligned at that point. So
Huh.
it's really 2 weeks halfway around the world. So you got to decide if you're rotating your schedule back or you're rotating it forward.